What's up, guys? This is Mike Casu, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week, I've got an interesting guest, owner of RedLine Gear and team management company, Matt O'Keefe. Matt is the CrossFit agent. He's a pioneer in the industry. He represents Matt Fraser, Katrin Davis' daughter, Brooke, Ence, Sarah Sigmund's daughter, etc. Lots of the biggest athletes. And what he is doing is he's allowing these people to become professionals. He's helping them get endorsements and taking away all of the stress of managing the business side and competitive side for these athletes so that they don't have to stress about it. I know Matt personally. I've known him for a couple years now. He's a tremendous guy, and what he's doing is great. I think you guys will really enjoy this show. If you would, please go to brutestrengthtraining.com/podcast/reviews and leave me a review real quick. Thanks. Matt O'Keefe, what's up, man?
Mike, how you doing, my man?
Very good. Great to hear from you. I miss you, man.
I miss you too, brother. Great to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Catching up.
I was sitting down a couple days ago. I forget when we scheduled this, but I was just all of a sudden just really excited kind of about your story in general. And I think it's just a really interesting one that a lot of people in the community have no idea is going on, what you're doing. And I just wanted to sit down and, kind of pick your brain about everything that you've learned over the past couple of years and gone through and stuff. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Well, cool. Thank you very much. It's been pretty wild ride over the last couple of years. So
I bet.
It's been a ton of fun. I get to meet cool people like you. So
hell yeah.
I'm winning.
So will you just briefly tell us the story of how you became an agent in the first place and started representing CrossFit athletes?
Yeah, so I'm a CrossFitter, as a fitness model, not a competitor, obviously. I have been CrossFitting for about 5 years now, and I was an insurance salesman, and I was bored with my job, so I, saw an opportunity actually in the clothing business. That was, an agent. Being an agent wasn't my start in this industry, but I started a company called RedLine Gear back in 2013, and worked really hard with that as a hobby. Overlapped with my current job as an insurance salesman, and it took off really quickly. We are in Boston. We're founded and housed in Boston, and I was lucky enough really early on. I worked out with a girl, a nationally ranked lifter that lifted with Matt Fraser at the Olympic Training Center, and in the junior lifting ranks. And so Matt, the long story short is she introduced me to Matt before I even had a thread of clothing, and I met Matt at the ECC in the fall before the ECC is what it is today. Mm-hmm. It's say October 2013, and she introduced me to him, and I asked him if RedLine could sponsor him, and he didn't really have anything going on at that point. He had already been to regionals once in that season, 2013, and Matt was my first sponsored athlete. I didn't have anything to give him, and mm-hmm. He sort of helped start RedLine. He was instrumental in us bringing our products out, and the rest is not history. We still have a lot of work to do with RedLine, but he's been obviously an amazing ambassador for that brand, and helped us move along a lot faster than we would have on our own. But Matt sort of is what started my agency career. Matt's not only someone I sponsored and supported through RedLine. He became a very close friend, and he had some things sort of going on from a sponsorship perspective, and just on the side, it was advising him, just helping him, and just from a business perspective, just making sure that everything was kosher and he was getting taken care of, and he wasn't double signing away rights. And it was pretty basic stuff at the time. I think 2014 we can all look. Was late 2014. This was a very different sport, and the economics of it for an athlete were way different than they are now. And so I was helping Matt, and Matt's stuff got busier and busier, and so it got to a point where I was at Granite Games, and after the 14 game season, and I was just sort of doing that for Matt. And so I met a girl named Brooke Ence, who you know really well.
Who's that? Brooke.
Brooke Ence, yeah. And it she saw my relationship with Matt. Matt competed, and sort of what I did for him, and I think that they probably spent a little bit of time talking. And Brooke's wheels have been turning, and all those athletes, even unrepresented, had a foundation for business, and they've been sponsored or getting attention from sponsors for a while. And I got a call from Brooke after the Granite Games, and it was really simple. As you know, Brooke can be pretty direct, and was just like, how do I get you to do what you do for Matt for me? Mm-hmm. And I guess it never had dawned on me that I was an agent even for Matt at that point, because my work with Matt was it was a lot of it was a lot of just a friend being a friend, and then that kind of increased. He got some great deals, and there was a little more to it than just me. Watching smaller sponsorship deals. Matt's become a big business, and so I started an agency. I said, what, if I'm going to do this, I feel good about what I'm doing, and I know that I've done a really good job for Matt, and I'm going to do a great job for Brooke, that I'm going to start a business. So, I started Team Group in fall of 14, and it's been great ever since. We represent about 14 athletes at this point. So, it's become a really fun part of my life. I spend a lot of time on it. I'm super passionate about these people that I work with. I hesitate to even call them clients. They're friends, but I've learned so much in the last 2 years because of them, through them, with them, and it's so fun to see how far the sport and the space and and our industry has come just in the short time I've been involved.
Mm-hmm. What was it like when you first entered the space and started representing Matt and Brooke, especially in your conversations with the companies at first? Was there resistance, or how did all of that go and feel?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. That's a great question, and I think that athletes in CrossFit and having agents was not always welcomed, and it's come a long way. I think there was a lot of resistance to a line between the athlete and the company, and I think that's the perception initially, no matter what the reason was for that. I think that the perception from a company perspective was that we're doing the best by these guys, and we want a relationship with them. What do they need an agent for? Mm-hmm. And I sat in a little bit of a different seat on that. I thought that everybody's heart was in the right place, but there was it wasn't always a financial thing. It was there's too much promised. There's things that are promised to multiple companies that make the life of the athlete super stressful in competition. And there was a lot more to it, and I think I might have been ahead of the curve with them needing a lot of help, but when I got in, I dove right in, and I wanted to be super involved in all their relationships and manage them like they were multi-million-dollar deals, because I think that I wanted to set a foundation for, expectations for these guys as sponsees and the sponsors, and create some better ground rules. Some of them didn't even have contracts. Everything was a handshake and a buddy system. And,
Right.
and I think you've been in the space a long time, that that's the way this thing worked for a long time. But it's gotten way past that.
Right.
These businesses are doing millions of dollars, and a lot of it has to do with who associates with them, athletes, and how they're endorsed. And so it's it was a tough existence at the beginning, and there was a lot of confidence put into me, particularly by Matt and Brooke, that no, this is my, it took a leap of faith from them too, where it was like, this is my guy. And no, because people would try to work outside of me, and it would say, and I was always upfront. Hey, this isn't about me. This is about Brooke, and this is about Matt. I'm just here to make sure that they're protected, and we're all doing the best by them. And as much as it was for them, there's also, I feel like, a really important side of what I do for the company too. I'm able to hold these athletes accountable to their contract, and I'm able to remind them in a lot easier way than the company is, that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And,
Right.
Bring a more professional level to them as a business as well. But that challenge was stressful for a long time. I look back and laugh at it now, but it was there are a lot of uneasy moments for me. Trying to build the relationships with the companies. That I was in this for just that, to help them and help the athletes. And it was a long haul, but it's great. It's great now, and people are understanding of it, and I think trust what we do for both sides. And it's different today. But it was a long haul.
Right. Who have been your role models, or kind of what sources of education have you consumed, like when as you were learning how to become an agent? Because I don't know if you were friends with a bunch of baseball agents or what, but like, how did you learn, and who did you learn that from?
So I do. I guess you could say I have a mentor, an agent mentor. I have a friend So growing up, my family was in the car business, and we gave a vehicle to a NBA player, D Brown, from Jacksonville, Florida. He played for the Celtics for a long time, and he's most notable for winning the dunk contest in 1991. Covering his eyes and pumping his shoes up with the Reebok pumps. But his agent is a man named John Wolf, out of Minnesota, who represented a number of NBA players, Amari Stoudemire, a bunch of golfers. And so, when this sort of came about, particularly when Brooke called me, my immediate thing, Brooke calling me, and Matt was getting a lot of interest from, shoe companies, and, his Nike deal was in the works. I picked the phone up and called John, and John's been inspirational in my confidence in what I'm doing, because what all the things that he really talked to me about brought it back to basics, that it's business 101. It's not, just because we're dealing with a personality with a company and an endorsement deal doesn't mean that it's a whole lot different than what I've done in the past, selling an insurance policy or selling a car, or building relationships and networking in different fields. It was, he made it super basic for me. And, so my background in my professional background in sales, and, business management when I ran my family's business, and, as an insurance producer, salesperson, have been really great training for what I do now. I just get to do something that I've always wanted to do, which is, not only be in the athletic world, but I get to work with people instead of products, right? It's, I get to affect people's lives, but also, this is, everything's a people business, quote unquote, but this is truly, being an agent is a relationship business, and built on trust. That's not like, just, people knowing you and knowing who you work with. Like, I pride myself on communication, and trust of my clients and the companies I work with. And I think that those are all the things that, you know, people that mentor me in general, my agent mentor, John Wolf, had talked about, you know, my father, who's been, inspirational and teaching me life lessons. Like, all these things are come along. I work with, um, Ben Bergeron. Ben has, taught me a lot about life and helped with these things. Ben's a deep dude. And, but I think, like, I mean, it's even, I look at everything like, I have a mentor in the business that's just sort of handed me off and given me confidence to do, you're good at this, you know how to do this. This is the template for it. But it's more, people like you and my clients, and I use that word reluctantly because they're friends, but, and people I work with on the company side, those relationships have helped mold me into, who I am and how I do things now. It's a you're in this industry in a different capacity, but it's a really cool place to do business, and there are a lot of really great people, and I enjoy the challenges that are presented with, making a deal, and making the economics worth. But I think that the reward is the financial benefit for the athlete, but also, these, wonderful relationships that, I've been able to sort of develop, and so have the athletes. It's a tight knit group, as you know, and so it mold that, long-winded answer for that.
No,
You know,
absolutely.
the community of, that we work in has molded a lot of what I do, and gives me a lot of confidence to keep doing, what I'm doing for the people I work with.
Well, it's definitely fascinating to hear. His name was John, right?
John Wolf,
Yeah,
yeah.
John, that you had John to turn to, but as I suspected, you've had to learn a lot of this stuff kind of on your own, on the fly,
Yeah.
um, which is pretty amazing, given everything else you have going on in life. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. What is your philosophy on helping these guys and girls manage competition as well as business, and what challenges do you encounter balancing the two?
Yeah, they're, that's been, one of the bigger challenges, I think, has been that is in my role with that and sort of feeling that out. And I think, I've taken a more significant role with different clients. I think, like, everybody I work with is a little different. I'm a bigger part of an in-comp team for certain people I work with. And, some people I'm more of an advisor on just their business. But yeah, I mean, I think that overall, I learned a lot last year, about, preparation, and what, how much more, my preparation means to these guys in their competitive schedule. And and that's, sort of preparing not only the athlete for things that I can be doing for them that weekend or those days, but also preparing the sponsors better for, you know, expectations for communication, expectations for, social media posting, attention to their brand on the floor, depending on how the contracts work. But I think that, there was some stressful situations last year. I think, and a lot of it had to do with, me, this thing getting bigger and there being more responsibility and more invested. And I think, me learning, a lot about how, that's the moment, excuse me, that's the moment that all the eyeballs are on these guys, and there are a lot of companies that feel like that's those 4 days around regionals, those that week around the games is the time that people want to hear from these guys, and I need to be very plan well planned for all of the little things with social media and communication with their teams, their sponsors, and and being really giving them a template for what they're supposed to wear. You know, where little things that you wouldn't think of, but like the shaker bottle they're carrying on the floor, and just all that little stuff. Is I'm going to be so much more involved in this year with a certain number of them, but yeah, it's been that's been the biggest thing I've had to learn. I think my perception before last year of my role with these guys was that I was their I was their business manager agent. I got the deals done. Made sure that they knew what they were supposed to do. Made sure responsibilities weren't promised, to multiple companies, and then they would handle everything on the floor, and and I'd be there to help if there was any chaos, and
Right.
all that did was create chaos, and I think that I've learned, and I was able to sort of manage it through some of those weekends last year, but I learned a lot, and you know, I'm constantly looking to get better, and so that these guys can do what is most important, which is win. They're all in this to win the CrossFit Games, win the region. They all have their goals, and if I can do more to help that's what I'm here for. And so, I think my role with all of them will be very defined is the best answer to that this year. And I will, be very sure that, they all have a template for success, which is, that their head is super clear. They're not dealing with any business things when it comes Thursday at regionals to Sunday. And if there is important business to be taken care of over that weekend, which is okay. They are athletes first, but the way they're able to be their best is because sponsors support them, and allow them to train full time and with a free mind and not have to stress about certain things either in their training from a product perspective or because they're financially rewarded for their success and to help with their training. So I think that if there's business to be handled in comp, it's just everything's planning and communication, and I think that's something that I've gotten way better at, and this year I'm sure will present a new host of challenges. But I think that me, myself, and my team, and the athletes I work with have got a very good sense of what it's going to take for them to be their best, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's what I'm here for. Is I'm not a coach. I don't tell them how to clean heavy weight or move faster in a workout. I do. I am there as a punching bag to work out with them occasionally. But I think that um, my role, I take a lot of pride in my role, and I think it's significant for them. On the mental side, I'm there for to help them mentally and to free their mind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you're making them, yeah, you're essentially making them into professional athletes. Ben and I interviewed Ben a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how he makes it mandatory that anyone that works with him be a professional and that they have no other job, right? They're just an athlete, and you are making it possible for these guys to do that so they can focus on their sport, on winning, and you're basically making the good great and the best even better, so it's awesome. And from a coach's perspective, I mean, you're a fucking godsend. Now we don't have to do all the scheduling and stuff like that, so it allows us to do our jobs better as well.
Well, thank you. That's the goal, and I think to piggyback what Ben has to say on that, and and you and I have spoken a lot about it. I think it's, they're, helping the athlete, become better at what they do as the total package. I mean, there's athletes that are great athletes, and then there are athletes that are marketable, and then there's athletes that are, marketable, they're great athletes, and then they're professionals in the way they're endorsed. And there's so many different levels, and I work with them all, and I think that helping them advance, in all those areas is a lot of fun, and it's a challenge, and it's stressful, but it's yeah, I mean, making them more professional and is something I think that was this wasn't about money for me.
Hmm.
You know, in everything's in business. You have to put food on the table. But I think that when I get into this, and it's still to this day, I ask myself the question often, like, if I hit the lottery, what would I do? And I've never been in a position in my life where I felt more strongly about saying that I would still do what I do because I
Hmm.
love what I do, because it's so much fun to mold and to help people advance and become more professional. And it's and you're more privy to a lot of things that go on, because you coach somebody that I work with as well. And I think that it's where these guys are today compared to where they were 2 years ago. Not only physically, the physical stuff is very measurable. It's so easy to see, um, you know, a lot of times, but just personally as businesses, as people, which is so important too, and it all lumped in together is so rewarding. And it's literally what all this is about for me
Right.
is putting, you and I know they're all good people, right? But these things, sponsorship and the stress of winning and money, like all these things create uncomfortable situations for people. And people, it's it, it's in there, helping them be the best of them, even with all that stress and everything piling on top of them, is a challenge sometimes,
Hmm.
because there's just it's so different than what it was 5 years ago. It wasn't, the games was, advancing greatly, and it's tremendous, and it's wild where it's going, and it's just, but it was still a bro session, and
Hmm.
it's not that. It's a professional sport now that, you're not going to the CrossFit games unless you've got a coach and,
Hmm.
somebody helping you with your business and your recovery and as it's just, but I take a lot of pride in their personal growth. And, being able to provide them a platform to be their best, I think, is the best answer. Like, to be professional, because they, are paid to train, and they're able to work hard and overcome, you know, watching them overcome fears of, being a public personality, all different levels of it, but accomplishment, all those things. It's so fun to watch these guys.
Hmm.
They're miraculous people. You do, and I do. I feel like I learn so much more from my clients than they do from me. I mean, I'm winning. I just, I love what I do. I love the people I work with. Even in the rough, hard, emotional times, it's so awesome, because it's growth, and I'm able to put that into my holster, and use that as, chalk it up to experience, and grow with it. It's really such a cool job.
Hmm. Absolutely. Tell me about one of your most exciting deals. Maybe one of the early ones, or something that um, just made you feel like, fuck, this is real now. Not I've made it, but this is a big deal. Can you think of one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think each athlete has like that deal where,
Hmm.
which, but I think for it's funny, like we as a group, like, individually, when I'm with them, we'll laugh about, those moments in the past, and like what was. I think those moments aren't measured necessarily on the financial package. I think that they're measured on, I think, a lot of those situations would be early on, just working with Matt, just getting an endorsement deal structured, and fighting for, a little more on the financial end, but also space,
Right.
and making headway and having the trust of the company. I look back at like some of those deals early on with Matt, and they've made me so much better at what I do today, even without even divulging like the financials of them. They're,
Right.
they're 5% of what they look like now,
Mm-hmm.
and but yeah, I mean, there's been so many great milestones for each of these guys, and whether it's whether it's Killcliff or Reebok or Nike or Noble or any of the supplement companies, Nutriforce. I think that like there have been tremendous moments that have been amazing, celebratory accomplishments for the athlete, but just as much the companies too. I feel like there aren't any deals that I've done, which is, I think, one of the most important things for me is like I haven't done a deal with a company that a company comes back can look back on and say that they got the raw end of that and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
worth it. And I think that that's growth in our industry too. It's like, they're paying more. They're like, not only are they investing resources in the athlete and their training and helping them, but they're, when you invest in someone and endorse them, there's another level of investment on top of that, which is, building content around them, marketing them, and so I think that to have an industry that started, throwing down in Dave Castro's backyard, come to the point where, big companies like Red Bull's, involved now, and, all these big, Nike and Reebok and, the Under Armour has been and talks of it coming back. It's like, these big, huge, multi-billion-dollar brands are marketing our athletes now, and not because they want to be good guys and pay them, because it works, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's been so cool to be a part of the success of an industry. I think, because I'm able to sort of just be the keeper of some amazing resources, which
Right.
are our best resources in the sport, which are the personalities that it's built around. Um, it's yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've got some really cool relationships now with all those big companies, and
Mm-hmm.
they're. I think it's important to say too that paramount to everything that I do is the trust that I have from the people I work with, my clients. And I think that, and not even, maybe 1A and 1B, but is the trust of the businesses that I work with, and, I have to protect my clients first, but, I really value, and appreciate all these businesses that are involved. And, I feel like I have a really great working relationship with a lot of different brands, competing brands too. I sit in an interesting seat, and maybe we'll probably talk about it a little later, but the whole Nike and Reebok thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been heavily in the middle of that whole thing, and but I have great relationships, with both, and I have big name athletes with both,
Right.
and they're both growing the pie, and we're all going to get a piece, and yeah, it's been phenomenal.
That's great. I love that analogy. We're all growing the pie rather than it being fixed and there's only so much, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean
like an
that's
abundance mentality.
well, that's it, right? So I mean, I think that when you look at this thing, and if you can get to 10,000 feet, and look at us as an industry, as a sport, when a company like Nike gets involved, yeah, that's heavy, stressful competition for certain brands. But there's also an argument that can be made that we just, our footprint just grew massively.
Mm-hmm.
You got a $32 billion company that owns 60% of the training shoe market share that's now involved in an industry that wasn't before. Our reach is a lot further. That's great for brands that are, smaller brands like Redline
Mm-hmm.
and Tupood and, Fuel for Fire and,
Right.
Noble. Like that's, we now have a bigger audience,
Mm-hmm.
and so, the hope is keep fighting, keep grinding and grabbing, your piece of the pie. And, I don't know, but I'm, that's my philosophy on this. And I think that, I think it holds true. I mean, I think we all have to protect that too. Like, I think that there has to be some level of welcomeness to involvement because, we have so much we can still do
Mm-hmm.
here as a industry, as a sport. And, the more involvement from people that are influencers in the sport world and sport in with athletes and can help with that, the better. You know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What do you are you conscious of the things that make you personally so trustworthy? Why people kind of gravitate toward you and automatically kind of trust you with their pocketbook?
Yeah, no would be like a real quick answer on that. Like I'm not, I mean, I'm self-conscious of that constantly. I think that that's the one thing that I think so there's actions and there's intentions, and you can intend um, anything you want and talk about it, but especially when it comes to that word trust, you got to act that out. And that's I know I'm trustworthy, and I know that I will always do right by whoever I'm involved in, and to no end. But that takes time. You have to act that out, and I think that am I aware that people trust me? Yes, because I know how I feel about my relationships with the people that I work with
Mm-hmm.
now, and I know how I felt, a year or 2 years ago. But I don't take that lightly, and I don't take it for granted. And it's not, that's something that every moment presents itself a new opportunity to prove that, and subconsciously, um, I act that out. I don't. It doesn't. I don't look at moments and say like this. I've got to do the right thing. Like I'm lucky. The way I was brought up and the way I was taught by my mentors and my family and my father and mother, particularly my wife, teaches me that you know there's a certain code of conduct, and I have core values that you know allow me to be trustworthy. I guess I don't do that intentionally. I guess I don't know how to describe that. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't do it to be trustworthy. I do it because I care,
Mm-hmm.
and because I want the best for everybody around me, whether it's work. It's who I work out with at my gym, CrossFit the Swamp in
Mm-hmm.
Swampscott, or if it's coaching or little league or whatever it is. I have one opportunity, and when they put me in the casket, I want people to look and say that was a good dude,
Mm-hmm.
and because that's important to me. I think that's no matter if I have success or failure, if I always do the right thing by people, I'll have been the most successful person in the history of the world in
Right.
my eyes, and that's worked out. Like, from a business perspective, I, I haven't spent a whole lot of time self-reflecting on, what that means and, how I've earned, the trust part of things. But I will say that, I got to think for every guy like me that's had some success because being in a business that really requires that paramount to everything else, I think that there's probably a lot of guys that do the right thing that don't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that. Like, I'm very lucky. I work with great people. I have a great team that involved in and have around me that support me. I have an awesome family. I have great friends.
Well, and you've got some balls. You've got some balls to take some big risk. I think that's the one where the good guys can lose sometimes if they just don't, if they're not willing to kind of go out on a limb every now and then. And that's something that you've done big time by quitting your day job and starting this whole thing.
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah, well, thank you. I think that, I have a very supportive wife and kids that, I travel a lot. It was a big leap to, put a proposed gap in income up on the table to my wife and say, like, here, I think that I'm going to be an agent in the CrossFit industry, and it was like, sort of like that scene from Top Gun where, like, Tom Cruise says, I'm going to put the brakes on and watch him fly by. And the guy in the back seat goes, you're going to do what?
Yeah.
I think, and so, but I got to say, like, no matter how wild this ride has been, over the last couple of years, that she's given me a lot of confidence to stay the course, and so do my clients. Like, I get notes from clients all the time, and it's my wife is just super supportive and keeps me on track, but so do my clients. And I think that and Brooke has been inspirational to this, Matt, and so many others. I work closely with Katrin and Sarah and Cole and, like, all these great people. But one of the things that I'm really lucky for is that how much they appreciate what I do for them, and how much they tell me that, and which for me is the most rich reward I gain from this is
Mm-hmm.
sort of the that, and you know how how we all have bumps and rises and ups and downs, and they give me a
Right.
a shitload of confidence to they remind me that I'm good at what I do when I forget that sometimes. But yeah, I got yeah, I mean, I guess I put it out, and I look at that, like, taking the chance thing in a little different light. Like, I was bored out of my mind doing what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a big fuck it moment, and I was just, that's when RedLine started. I remember I was driving in a car ride with the owner of the Swamp and his wife, Mike and Jenna, and they're like, I told them I gotta, I've been telling them I gotta do something, I gotta do something, and they're like, I was sitting in the back seat. We were driving into Reebok to go work out and buy shoes. I'll never forget it. And they were like, I was like, I'm gonna start a clothing company, and they're like, you're gonna do what? And I was like, you know what? I got a great idea for a brand. I'm doing it. Like, I mean, I was like,
Nice.
I'm doing it. It's just so, like, that, and that was the start of all this. But I think, like, for the first time in my life, I I overcame the fear of, like, taking a chance on
Mm-hmm.
something, and which is a huge leap, and I don't, get me wrong. I thank my, lucky stars, and I'm so grateful that I had the courage to be able to, like, put myself out a little, because it wasn't always in my character, and so, like, that's been great personal growth. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that that move, um, I think, I think I posed a question when I was, doing things I didn't like, which was, am I going to wake up and be 50 and still be sitting at this desk?
Right.
And it's like, how many people do that and wake up and, they're, they got, not a whole lot of time left to live,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I don't, that goes back to, like, if I, became so wealthy that I didn't need to do a damn thing with myself except, hang out, I would still do this. And I mean that. So many people can say, oh yeah, bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you right now, I wish I could prove it to people. I really do. I play Powerball, and that's my thought is, like, let me win so I can show you that I would not do anything different.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't trade, anything I do for any amount of money.
Where can people go to find you on social media, website, etc.?
Um, you can, shoot me an email. I think, the best place to get me is Matt, Matt, at teammanagementgroup.com, which is, there's no double M in that. It's TEAMAN. So yeah, that's the best way to get me. And, I'm on, I'm not a self promoter. I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I probably show up in a lot of photos on social media, and people are like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" But that is. But I mean, I'm all over all that stuff. I mean, I probably should use it more. But again, I don't. I don't have like a team group Instagram or Facebook page, because it's, we have a website, teammanagementgroup.com, which has, if there's athletes out there that are interested and need help, there's a form on there that they can fill out. But we're not a fit for everybody, but we certainly, one thing I do try to do is, if we're not a fit, I try to find a fit for that person. But yeah, so shoot me an email or go to our website and check us out.